High-level government corruption keeps millions of Africans in poverty, while the ill-gotten proceeds are often redirected overseas. Yet even as the rich West condemns these practices, it also helps make them possible. Dirty money is channeled to banks in Europe and the US through anonymous companies that conceal the identities of those involved. So who helps facilitate this murky international trade? We asked 2 African journalists to find out.
It's easy for the developed world to look down on Africa. With the poverty
I believe I would have filmed something. Let's take a laptop and check what we have filmed. The only thing you didn't do is just to focus on me. Okay. You understand? You've done well. You've done very well. So I think we should be ready to go now.
Yeah. So I think we are ready now to go out for the secret filming. I've done this sort of thing before, but it's amazing just how the adrenaline gets over you as you prepare for these kinds of missions. But we are now ready for action, and the car is waiting for us outside, and I'm going out now.
We've arranged a meeting at Zen Offshore Limited. one of many corporate service providers here. On arrival, we were met by Stephen Anglin, the client services manager, and Yuris Fico, the man Anas met in his first meeting. Anas repeated his intention to open the company on my behalf, so that I would have no documented connection to the company whatsoever, something which would be against the law.
That's okay.
That's
so
okay.
You are the beneficial owner, and we don't even ask you about your name or address or everything.
And that sometimes is a very good way. It gives an extra level so that they can't find anything about who the actual owner of the company is.
You can appreciate why I'm saying this, because my client is from Zimbabwe.
I can too.
And then he's the liaison officer between the Zimbabwean government and the rich diamond mines.
Yeah, we don't want to know that.
Don't go.
I mean, that's the sorts of things that we can't have knowledge. If we have knowledge of that, we have to put it forward. So I haven't heard a word you've said in the last couple of minutes.
Okay.
I was shocked to see how open they were to flouting the law. They clearly understood that they were dealing with a potentially corrupt individual, but they simply didn't care. Stephen went on to describe how we could make it almost impossible for investigators to find out even Anas's connection to the company by opening a chain of companies in different offshore jurisdictions.
You can put a company inside a company inside a company if you wanted to.
You buy this company, Kind International Consulting. You may register another company in Dominica, say.
You put the
Owned by
shareholder
this company.
of this company as the Dominican company. Then you buy a Bailey's company, you put the shareholder of the Dominican company as the Bailey's company. So you can actually fit a structure so that it takes them, first they've got to go to Dominican, then they've got to go to Bailey's, then they've got to come to Seychelles, then, and it's just impossible. No one is going to try and chase that sort of information.
So
We can have layers of about 10.
You can have layers of any amount. Any amount that you want, you can layer. It just depends on what you want to do, and this is something that the head office company does a lot of. They do really complex structures. Now, I don't know if you want to go into that depth, but there's certainly a possibility and plenty of range to do that sort of thing.
This kind of layering is one of the key tactics used by people who want to launder stolen money. And I couldn't believe these agents were happy to discuss it like this. But what they were saying also made me feel like the whole offshore financial system is basically designed to help people evade the law. And it's not just corrupt African politicians abusing this system. It's tax dodgers, drug runners, terrorists, and all kinds of criminals that want to keep their identities hidden. What I can't understand is why the West, with all its power, is allowing such a distorted system to exist. So it looks like I'll have no problem laundering my millions of dollars with the help of this corporate service provider. After buying the company, all we will need to do is open a bank account, which Anas could do using the company's name. If any investigator came snooping, my name would be nowhere to be seen.
I am totally disgusted about this. For me, it tells you the scope of the fraud that is being perpetrated, that people can just run away, come and find people like this. And it's on the international scale, and nobody is doing anything about it. I find it very, very shocking.
The whole experience had left me feeling shell-shocked. It's depressing to think how easy these corrupt leaders have had it all these years. But we still had one more meeting to go. It would have been easy to suggest that Zen Offshore was just one rogue company, but nothing could have prepared me for the conversation that was about to take place in the next meeting.
Hello, Mr. Charles. Yeah, I just spoke to him, and the time works for him.
Our meeting was with Charles Lucas, the director of another corporate service provider called Premier Offshore Limited. Once again, Anas explained my desire to have no recorded connection to the company that he would like to open on my behalf.
George, Prince, this can be done. You can register an offshore company. You can open your bank account. I can assist you with that. And George will not appear on it at all. But for this, you will have to be very careful to ensure that George is protected. So he must never be known or seen.
Once again, we had found a corporate service provider that seems happy to break the law. But that was only the start. He then advised us on how we could create companies to disguise the transfer of corrupt money so that the transfers look like normal business transactions.
Assuming you have $1 million you want to deal with, it's not with your cash, okay? We may have to create another company, and that company will be a consultant company. It charges you monthly or weekly X amount on all sorts of transactions, and you organize for payment to be deposited into that company's account, okay, for payment of the fees and charges. And as such, finally, you get your money quietly. Or otherwise, you can create another company. You see this issue of having international business companies, offshore companies. Yes. You can make one to complement the other, depending on your needs and your use for it.
The meeting was quickly turning into a crash course in money laundering, and the central role played by companies was becoming very clear. To think that we had only been in Seychelles a couple of days, and we were finding it this easy to meet professionals who were willing to assist us in these criminal matters. It is no wonder that Africa loses an estimated $148 billion every year to corruption, almost 3 times the amount we receive in foreign aid.
I must admit, I am shocked by this guy. He sounded as this hardened criminal, and I can't believe he accepted me as this corrupt businessman. And only God knows how many more corrupt people he has assisted to launder money. And what really surprised me was just how easy he made it sound.
Anas and I decided we wanted to meet Charles Lucas one more time, and this time confront him with the truth on how we feel about what he is doing.
Hi, Mr. Charles, how are you?
The day after the meeting, Anas had gone to Charles' office to pay for a company. So we asked Charles if he could come to our apartment with the incorporation documents. We waited for him outside.
Okay, by now you should be on.
Nice to meet you again.
Thank you.
Take a seat.
Thank you. Excuse me. There we are. I had limited. Had you told me yesterday, you could have.
No, sorry, very sorry. I intend to sign quickly and then
Yes.
we will.
Okay. Excuse me, may I see where you signed? Yes. This is your certificate of incorporation.
Mr. Lucas, you are shameless. What do you have to say for yourself for this kind of work that you do? You are impoverishing my continent, helping corrupt people come here to hide stolen money. What do you have to say for yourself?
Mr. Lucas, listen. The activities of people like you, it is what is keeping the African continent badly.
You know, sir, what you are doing? You know what you are doing?
What are we doing? These activities have always kept Africans in poverty. You know what this means? This means to the African continent?
You know what you are doing now?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
You don't know what I am also doing.
Yes, but we are saying.
What are you doing?
I will tell you one thing.
Mr. Lucas, no.
I will walk out.
No, don't walk out. Don't walk out. You have to know that such activities have never helped us.
What do you have to say for yourself,
in Africa,
Mr. Lucas?
do you know how we are suffering?
This kind of behavior.
Do you know how many
this
people
kind
are
of
dying
behavior
in Africa?
And that was that. He walked away, and we never saw him again. Before leaving Seychelles, after everything we had seen here, I felt it was necessary to speak to some local law enforcement to get their perspective. I spoke to the director of the Seychelles Financial Intelligence Unit, Declan Barber. He was brought in by the government to help develop the country's defenses against financial crime.
Well, it doesn't entirely surprise me, Stanley, that there's a minority within the offshore industry here that would facilitate that type of approach and that type of activity. But this small number of people will bring, they are at disproportionate risk to the reputation of a country that is doing its very best in the face of constant challenges from this minority in relation to using using the jurisdiction for, criminally supportive activities. But it's not as if, for example, Europe or the United States can hold up a clear white sheet on issues like this. There are malpractices everywhere. Like in the vast majority of cases where we would be tracking tainted assets, the financial flows, they don't end in Seychelles. Much of the time they move to respectable jurisdictions, if you wish. Hong Kong, to the UK, to the US. So this is a global issue. It's not a regional issue, and it's certainly not a Seychelles issue.
Here in the Seychelles, I've shown how easy it is to employ the corporate services sector to help hide corrupt money trails. But as Declan said, money laundering is a global issue, and these corporate services can also be found in major financial centers across the world, centers like London. In fact, recent studies have shown that corporate service providers operating in developed nations are the least compliant with international anti-money laundering standards that ask for customer identities to be properly verified. We actually put this to the test and sent emails to a number of corporate service providers in the UK and the US, and we found that a good number of them were willing to form companies without asking for any ID documents. In fact, in most states in the US, there's no legal requirement whatsoever for corporate service providers to collect this information. But countries like the UK and America are also claiming to lead the fight against money laundering. So surely, it shouldn't be so easy to create anonymous entities that make that criminality easy. In most parts of Africa, it's hard to avoid corruption, and we are sick of it. Our money, the money we need to invest in all our futures, is being stolen and hidden overseas. What we need is corporate and financial transparency. Instead, we have corporate service providers that are happy to do business with absolutely anyone and everyone, weakly enforced regulations, and an international system that tolerates the use and abuse of secrecy to our cost.
And we'll return to this story in the months ahead as we investigate just how corrupt money is moved around banks in the developed world.